we think. To prove that, we collected a couple of heartwarming clips of some animals reuniting with their owners. Number 20. This wild horse named Phoenix had been separated from his lover, Ghost, for over 2 years. It visibly had a dull effect on his moods, and he would keep to himself, even when he was around other horses. Perhaps that's why the rescuers at Skydog Sanctuary worked so hard to unite the two horses. And when they finally did, it was clear that Phoenix and Ghost were meant for each other. Number 19. This guy had been in the hospital for just a few months, but had lost so much weight that his dog thought he was just some stranger, at least from a distance. Watch how the pooch gets all riled up when he finally recognizes him using his scent. Beautiful. Number 18. In 2019, a Louisiana family finally got to meet Jasper, their dog that had been missing for over 8 years. That period was long enough for the family to lose hope of ever seeing their hound again, so it was a bit of a pleasant surprise. But even more surprising was that he was found in Houston, a 7-hour drive from Louisiana. Number 17. Anita had socialized with these wolves for 2 years at Polar Park in Norway before leaving briefly. She came back to a flurry of kisses and hugs from the excited canines that visibly adored her. The 4 wolves immediately rushed to meet Anita as soon as she settled down on the ice. Number 16. 2 chimps, Swing and Doll, came out to meet Linda Kobner, an animal behaviorist, after she'd been away for 18 years. The trio had previously spent 4 years together when Kobner offered to ease the chimps back into the outdoor lifestyle. Previously, Swing and Doll had been part of a group of lab animals, so all they knew were the cages and darkness, and were even afraid of getting out, something Kobner helped them overcome. Number 15. This horse owner was away on vacation for 3 weeks. She was missing her horse all that time, so she decided to straight up check on her before doing anything else. Turns out the feeling was mutual. The horse was just as eager to see her again, and as soon as she opened the gate to the pasture, the horse started walking towards her and even galloped at some point. Number 14. In 2010, a gorilla named Koibi became an overnight celebrity after a video of him and the conservationalist Damien Aspinall went viral. The gorilla was born and raised in England's Howlett's Wild Animal Park and released into the Gabon wild as part of Aspinall's conservational efforts. 5 years later, the two met again after Aspinall tracked down the gorilla, and Koibi remembered everything about this guy who had taken care of him since he was young. Number 13. This is Edgardo, an Argentinian rancher, and his condor friend he named Condorito. A few years before this video was taken, the two met in some not-so-good circumstances. The bird was still young and had just fallen out of a nest, and Edgardo just happened to come across him. He took care of the bird before letting him free a few months later. Condorito seemingly remembers the thoughtful gesture, so he decided to check in on the Good Samaritan. Number 12. Malkia and Adele are 2 lions that were rejected by their parents. Not a surprise considering that the parents were circus performers. Luckily for the two, they were taken in by Malkia Park Big Cats Rescue in Slovakia, eventually growing into gracious beasts. But they always kept a soft side for Michaela Ziminova, one of the people who took care of them. Seeing her makes their day, especially if she's been away for some time. Number 11. When Rebecca Sfatino left her family's Pennsylvania home, she just didn't anticipate how much their 9-year-old dog would miss her. She found this out 2 years later when she finally came back to a visibly excited dog who couldn't hold herself together. Casey, as the dog was called, launched into a series of squeaks, which later culminated in passing out. Number 10. This cat named Francine had been missing from home for about a year. Searches around the neighborhood and appeals for information hadn't worked, so the owner was starting to lose hope of ever finding Francine. But one day the owner spotted the cat as she was driving around the neighborhood, and as you can tell from this clip, they hadn't forgotten about each other at all. Number 9. Dean Schneider from Switzerland had garnered popularity as a wildlife enthusiast. While he looks after several species on his Hakuna Mapaka oasis property, he's mostly known for his fondness for lions that seem to drop their vicious side when they see him. Watch how they come rushing to him with hugs and kisses after he's been away for a short while. Number 8. This is Limbani, the Insta-famous chimp going crazy when he sees the couple who gave him around-the-clock care when he was young. Apparently, this has always been Limbani's reaction every time the couple, Jorge and his wife Tanya, come back after being away for some time. The chimp had a bad start in life after he was born with pneumonia and rejected by his mom. Number 7. The 2013 Oklahoma tornado was devastating for Barbara Garcia, just as it was for many other residents. Her home had been flattened, and with it, her beloved dog. At least that's what she thought. Speaking to CBS in the aftermath of the catastrophe, Miss Garcia recounted the sequence of events as the tornado hit her home, even hinting that her dog had been in the rubble. About a minute later, the dog is spotted trying to get out in what turned out to be one of the most heartwarming reunions. Number 6. When Sonia the bear was orphaned, Jonathan was one of the people who took turns raising her until she attained the monumental size common with these mammals. So before he left the sanctuary, Sonia had become fond of him, and she even recognized him years later when Jonathan came to visit. Back in 2016, the story of Jinjing the penguin from Brazil went viral. The unlikely bond between the bird and a retired bricklayer, Joao, developed when the 71-year-old cleaned and nursed Jinjing back to life after being covered in oil. The bird stayed for almost a year before leaving, but would be back again a few months later. It has since become the penguin's routine, checking up and staying with Joao every few months before disappearing to God knows where for the rest of the year. Number 4. This boy couldn't hold back his tears when he found a little surprise: the family cat that had been missing for 7 months. The cat just sits there, but she's also probably happy to see him, seeing as she doesn't make any effort to get away. Number 3. Here's how Kiara the lioness greets her adoptive dad, Adolfo, every time he visits her. Her weight is obviously something Adolfo has a hard time dealing with, but everything is alright seeing as Kiara has no interest in unleashing her fangs and claws, at least not on him. Number 2. The founder of the Modisa Wildlife Project in Botswana, Valentine Gruner, rescued Sirga the lioness when she was just 10 days old. At the time, the lions were living in a rehab camp under conditions that weren't ideal for the cats. Her siblings were killed by other members of the pack, and the mom refused to nurse her. 10 years down the line, Sirga is now a big and healthy girl. This is how she greets Gruner every time they meet. Number 1. Still on wild cats, Gabriel the cheetah has an incredible story with his human buddy, Dolph C. Volker. The two met when Gabe was 8 months old at the Cheetah Experience Breeding Center in Bloemfontein, South Africa. Within no time, they developed a strong bond well into Gabe's adulthood. Every time Dolph came back from the US, Gabe had a lot in store as far as showing